After earning a 13-point victory over Butler in the Big East Tournament's opening round, St. John's men's basketball will square off with top-seeded Marquette in a quarterfinal matchup today at noon. Jim Ferchland here in the Learfield Network studios, one of 4 games to be played in the Big East Tournament today. Coming up right after the Johnnies is the 4-5 matchup, Providence and UConn. The Friars are coming off their worst conference loss of the season in their last regular season home game against Seton Hall. Ever since we got into March, Providence is 0-2. This is a team that went 15-0 at home until March came around. They did split the season series against the Huskies, winning Game 1, 73-61 on January 4th, and then lost by 18, 87-69 on February 22nd. UConn comes in today, winning their last 5 games. Now let's rewind to what happened in the first round. Number 10, DePaul nips past Seton Hall when it mattered most in a 66-65 victory. Blue Demons guard Umoja Gibson made 3 free throws with less than 4 seconds left. Then Nick Ongenda blocked a Seton Hall layup at the buzzer to advance to the quarterfinals. That win ended an 11-game losing streak for DePaul, and it's weird on how it comes full circle. DePaul will play number 2 Xavier at 7 tonight in the Garden. That's the last team the Blue Demons beat back on January 18th in Chicago, 73-72. And Villanova won big over Georgetown 80-48 last night to conclude the first round games. It was all Wildcats since the first half after going up 41-20 after the first 20 minutes. Cam Whitmore led all scorers with 19 points for the Wildcats. They will square up with number 3 Creighton at 9:30 tonight in the Garden. The Blue Jays' last loss was to Nova in Philly a little less than 2 weeks ago, 79-67, but did win the first meeting in Omaha, 66-61. We'll have more conference tournament and top 25 updates in our halftime coverage. After the break, we have our pregame interview with the Red Storm head coach, Mike Anderson. That's next on the St. John Sports Network from Learfield.
20 minutes are in the books, and it's time for the Red Storm Halftime Report. While the Johnnies prepare for the second half, it's time to check in on the latest scores from the Big East and Top 25. Our Red Storm Halftime Report begins now.
St. John's with a double-digit lead on Marquette, 36-26 at halftime in the Big East quarterfinals. Jim Ferchland back here in the Learfield Network studios. Practically all the top 25 teams are on a bye, so let's rewind to some close contests from yesterday's action, and the madness has just begun. We'll start in Greensboro. Wake Forest wins 77-74 over Syracuse after Davian Williamson connected with a 3 with 0.5 seconds remaining in the second round of the ACC tournament. The bigger story afterwards, Syracuse head coach and future Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim announced his retirement after 47 years with the program. Colorado State wins late over Fresno State 67-65 in the first round of the Mountain West Championship. Colorado State's Isaiah Stevens had the go-ahead bucket with 2.7 left to defeat the Bulldogs. Now you gotta love March. The George Mason Patriots came back to win over Richmond late 62-57 in the second round of the Atlantic 10 Championship. George Mason's Ronald Polite put the Patriots ahead with a 3-pointer with 47 seconds left, and that was enough to hold the Spiders off in Brooklyn. Colorado won over Washington 74-68 in the first round of the Pac-12. A late 3 from Colorado's Luke O'Brien with 59 seconds left was the turning point in Las Vegas. Minnesota pulls off the upset in Chicago against Nebraska 78-75 in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. Rice edges out University of Texas San Antonio 72-71 in the first round of the CUSA Championship. And have a night, E.J. Harkless for the UNLV Rebels, a season-high 35 points in an overtime victory against Air Force in the first round of the Mountain West Championship. Coming up next, we'll look at today's matchups in the top 25. Time to play with the best in the land. That's next on the St. John Sports Network from Learfield. Jim Ferchland back here in the Learfield Network studios. Here's how the schedule pans out regarding the top 25 programs in the country. At noon, and at the moment, number 14, Miami and Wake Forest in the ACC quarterfinal. Score at the half, 34-29, Hurricanes lead. At 12:30, Iowa State tipped off with number 10 Baylor in the Big 12 quarterfinal. It's 25-22 Iowa State. The Cyclones won both meetings over the Bears by 15 points each. And then in the Big East quarterfinal at 2:30, Providence plays UConn. Also at 2:30, back to the ACC for Pitt and number 21 Duke. 3 games at 3 o'clock, Colorado and number 2 UCLA. West Virginia and number 3 Kansas. A story update for this game. Kansas head coach Bill Self hospitalized and will not coach the Jayhawks today. Norm Roberts will serve as the interim head coach. And Ole Miss, number 17, Tennessee. 3 more games at 7 o'clock. Big East quarterfinal between DePaul and number 15, Xavier. And then in the ACC, North Carolina and number 13, Virginia. And in the Big 12 quarterfinals, Oklahoma State and number 7, Texas. 1 Pac-12 game at 9 o'clock. It's Stanford against number 8, Arizona. And to wrap up the schedule at 9:30, Big East quarterfinal featuring Villanova and number 24, Creighton. And in the Big East, in the Big 12, lone game with 2 top 25 programs. Number 22, TCU faces number 12, Kansas State. Also have to check up on our friends in Piscataway. 18-13 Rutgers play 17-14 Michigan at noon in the second round of the Big Ten tournament. That tipped off, and Michigan leads by a possession, 28-25 at the half in the United Center in Chicago. We'll have more tournament updates in our post-game coverage. Minko is standing by with the first half stats in the world's most famous arena, Madison Square Garden. Second half Big East tournament action coming up next on the St. John Sports Network from Learfield. Finals in the top 25 in the ACC. Miami wins in a nail-biter against Wake Forest, 74-72 in Greensboro. And for the 3rd time this year, Iowa State defeats Baylor, 78-72. The final from the T-Mobile Center in Kansas City. Not to mention, the Cyclones out-rebounded Baylor 44-17. And after being down by 3 at the half, Rutgers storms back to beat Michigan 62-50. They outscored the Wolverines 37-22 in the second half. That'll wrap it here from the studio. It was a pleasure and a privilege working with St. John's men's basketball this season with Learfield. I really enjoyed working alongside with Brandon, Tariq, Mahoney, Madge, and especially you, John. It was quite the ride, and I'm grateful for this exceptional experience. Mink, back to you.
Thank you very much, Jim, and certainly we echo the words here in the broadcast booth.